Hello, welcome everybody. We are online. We will start in 2 minutes, just some minutes to welcome people, to welcome our partners, Nick and Marides, and our speaker, Viviana. Welcome.
Thank you.
And good morning for you and good afternoon for us. And I want you to show that I also have two sisters here. I'm sorry, I'm trying to, here they are, because,
hello.
Sorry. Oh, they thought that the meeting was here on site at the USG. So they came here, so we welcome them, and then they are following the webinar like that. So, okay, we are the number, but we can wait just 1 minute more. In the meantime, I want just to share with you some we have some problem in internet. Okay, we hope it works well. We have some connection problem also in Italy, as you can see. So it's a common challenge. Just a second. Okay, Catherine, hello, Catherine, welcome. So just for you, as Catherine has already discovered, you have two possibilities to say something, to comment. You can raise your hand and then we'll give you the audio, because the audio, all the participants' microphones are off because of the noises and so on. So if you want to say something, I can give you the flow. Just raise your hand. There is at the bottom. Or you can also write in the chat questions session, as Catherine has already done. Catherine, do you want the flow? Do you want to just introduce shortly yourself, and someone else, if you want to do it, you are very welcome. Just raise your hand if you want to just introduce yourself. We have people from India. Here we go. Sister Maria Lourdes. You're welcome. You have the flow.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, I'm Sister Lourdes from a Sister of St. Paul of Chartres, based here in Rome. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Maria Lourdes. So in the list, we have a lot of people coming from Rome, but they are international people coming from other countries, then from India, Nigeria. I saw the countries, then United States, of course, Canada, Japan. So I'm very happy to welcome all of you, and I think it's time to start. So this is the theme of our workshop is Digital Technologies for Development, ICT for Development. We had a similar conversation 2 weeks ago in Italian, so we try to have webinars in different language. I'm Patrizia Morgante, I'm the USG officer, and I'm very happy to welcome my colleagues, Marides and Nick, because they are partners of our organization. We are partners, we work together, and we launch and organize these webinars together. So, Marides, you have the floor.
Greetings, everybody. I am Marides Santos. Currently, I'm the president of MultiMedia International. This is a volunteer organization of religious congregations who are mainly based in Rome. So our members are religious men and women and their lay collaborators who are working mainly in the Ministry of Communication. And this is MMI is a place or an organization where this communication or communicators meet, especially here in Rome. And we are sharing our skills, our knowledge to use media effectively in the area of communication and evangelization. And then we strive to increase among our members the awareness of the importance of media, especially in the promotion of Christian values, and explore how modern communication technologies can assist in the work of mission. So we organize monthly workshops that can help these communicators. And we also connect one another to those who have knowledge and skills so that we can improve our knowledge in this area. And we are happy to collaborate also with UISG in offering courses and workshops to help our members. So, welcome to this webinar. Welcome to Viviana. Blessings for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Marides. Can you just share the website?
Would you like me to show the website or?
No, the address, www.
It's www.multimedia-int.org.
Okay, I will send it to people by chat later on. So thank you, Marides. And Nick, it's up to you.
Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nick Schaefer. I'm the Executive Director for the Communicators for Women Religious. We are headquartered, our main office is in the United States, in Chicago, and we are a professional association of communication officers, of leaders, of development professionals, all those who are invested in the ministry of advancing Catholic sisters. Whether it's their mission, their charism, and all of those parts of what Catholic sisters do. We have members in 5 countries, but we support ministries and sisters in every part of the world, and we're very excited to partner with UISG and MultiMedia International to provide webinars and other educational opportunities for communicators and for those who are coming into this ministry area. So our website is c4wr.org, and we have a lot of training resources there and other items that might be of interest to you. And again, I express my gratitude to you all for joining us and to Viviana for coming and sharing her knowledge with us this morning. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Nick. Nick, you're very welcome. And we are planning other webinars, from March on.
Yes.
So we will send you the calendar. And
yes.
in May, we'll have other webinars in different languages.
Yes.
On the communication field, but also on other issues using the webinars platform.
Yes.
So as we can continue, as we usually start our webinar, we usually start with the prayer taken from this wonderful theme chosen by our Pope Francis for the World Day of Social Communications for 2018, that is fake news and journalism of peace. And the quotation from the Gospel of John is, "The truth will set you free." The World Day will be in May, but the message has been published in January. So I invite you to read the message, because it's really the message written by Pope Francis, because it's really inspiring. As USG and also MMI and CWR, for these webinars, we have chosen the lemma "Communicating the Mission." And it's very important to become aware of the dangerous of fake news to communicate the mission. So this is really important. Please read the book, the message. It's very well done. And the prayer that I have chosen is taken from the message. So I invite you to take a time of silence and read by yourself the prayer. May our words be seeds of goodness for the world. I think this prayer is very beautiful, and for us as communicators that we work in this field, it's very important to be contemplative communicators. And the theme that we have chosen today, and Viviana will help us to go more in depth, it's important for our mission. So how we can live and use, let's say, the information and communication technology for our mission, for the development of our countries. It's not just a question of money. So I would like to briefly introduce Viviana. This is the photo that you have in the website of NGO 2.0. And I took your bio from there. So Viviana is a laywoman. She's Italian. She speaks a very good English. She tries to balance communication and cooperation. So she works within an NGO, and she works to integrate these two areas. And today you will add another area, the religious field, Viviana. So after some in field activities in South Africa, Benin, Burundi, and collaboration with the team of Robin Good, that is a communicator, she's now working for an NGO, an Italian NGO, CISB, and on 2.0, that is NGO 2.0, hiding behind the articles, posts, and tweets. So welcome. I will give you now here we go. So thank you for accepting our invitation, and we are looking forward to hear from you.
Okay, I hope you are seeing my screen. Scanning the presentation. Oh, something went wrong. I don't know what is wrong with the Zoom. Okay. Okay, I'm so sorry because the graphics is not really okay. It was perfect before, but maybe in GoToWebinar something went wrong. But I think it's not so important. So I thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm so happy to be here. I know that you are so many connected from everywhere in the world. So thank you for taking this hour and a half for spending with me. And I thank you also for being so welcoming. I really appreciate this warm welcome. And I'm ready to start. We are going to talk about communication in a quite different way, not really as we are used, more focused on digital communication. In this case, we are focused more on technologies. So I started with these questions because we cannot start without knowing the meaning of this acronym ICT4D. So is information communication technology, and D is for development. So is a specific use of the ICTs. Okay, and it's something I read your the result of your forms, and I saw that maybe there is a little bit of confusion about these topics. The ICTs are really huge sectors because they include both the hardware and the software. So the ICT are like the mobile phones, televisions, radios, but also all the softwares and the content we can share using this kind of tools. They are especially a tool, and this is I think a key word that we have to keep in mind during this session for better understand all the meaning and all the different uses we can have in the developing countries, but not only. So for make it easier, the really easier definition could be the ICT allows people to access, create, collect, produce, transmit, receive, and disseminate information, but also to be in contact. And I think this is something really important, especially for you, that you have a very important mission to communicate. So I give you some examples of what I'm talking about, because I don't know you, so maybe there is some people that are really professional and already knows, but maybe there are people that are really beginners in the communication field. So I think I try to clarify. So the information communication technology, especially in the traditional one, are the telephone, the television, and the radio. It was used especially in the past, but even today. Now we are not so used to talk about the television because in developing countries are quite expensive to access and to share content. So especially the NGO in Italy normally cannot really afford to communicate using the television. But in developing countries, they are more open, and even the costs are low. So maybe it's one of the main challenge to disseminate information. And to this topic, I'm sorry. Okay, we can add other new tools like mobile devices, and not only we don't have to think about only the last generation of mobile device like the smartphone, but even the previous one, so the normal cell phone, really the basics. And then there are among the international information communication. Sorry, I have. Okay, the system noticed me that my connection is maybe so low. So Patrizia, do you mind if I switch off the webcam? Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. You can switch it off. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, because I have some problem maybe with the connection. Yeah.
Okay.
And let's talk about connectivity and maybe how to improve connectivity could be also a mission to communicate. This is one of the challenges that we have to effort. So maybe working with the government and to improve connectivities, because the access to the internet is it's really important for everybody everywhere. And they are part of the information communication technology, and this could sound a little bit weird, also drones. So drones could be integrated in some projects, development projects. They could be a way to be in contact with rural areas, remote communities, not only for share information, but also for provide some support and assistance, especially in case of emergency or risky situation. And they are working using information communication technologies. Normally, they are working using Bluetooth or internet connections. So they are part of these technologies. Then we have computer, of course, And then we have Internet of Things. I don't know if everybody knows about the Internet of Things. It's something really new, but is a technology based on the internet that allows different devices to communicate with each other, and it works effectively, especially with the sensor. They use a sensor that could, for example, track people behaviors, and it's related to the use of big data, so collecting different data on the people behaviors. And for example, you can track how many people are going to take a train in a special hours, and maybe you can know which are the peak hours, but also to arrange it, to manage the services in a more effective way. This is used everywhere in the north of the world, if we have to define it in this way. So in Europe and the US, and also in the north of Asia, it's something that is this is really spread now. Many companies are using the Internet of Things, but we can find this kind of technology also in developing countries. Then I will describe it better, but we have collaborated with local innovators, so an entrepreneur working in Rwanda that is a winner of a grant that we were supporting last year, and it was able to integrate some sensors, so the Internet of Things, in a kiosk that is using in Rwanda, so providing electricity to people, and use it for better managing the kiosk and this business, and also to allow the disabled people to work with and to work with the kiosk. So I will add some more details about this technology, but in something really new that we can consider. And then satellites, having pictures from the space is something really useful, especially in emergency, and also in community planning, in how to manage a community, what are the services already available on the ground, what we can integrate. So when you are working on how to improve lives in a special part of the world, satellites could really be helpful. So it's a tool that is available. It's not really expensive to use it, and sometimes we can just ask to some expert to support us in our daily job, but it could be a good tool for implementing new projects for communities around the world. And then we have smartphone applications. Anybody that are using a smartphone in their daily life is using normally many applications, and we have seen that especially in the developing countries, there are rising a lot of apps that are developed by local developers. And it's really interesting because these apps are able to face in some local needs. And then I will add some details also on this technology, but it's another option that we have. And then we have digital data collection. This is one of the main needs that normally I found when I start to collaborate with the NGO that are working in the ground. And I think this is a need that maybe you are also finding in your daily job, how to manage data. Normally we are collecting data from the beneficiaries or people of different communities, also in rural areas. Normally we are collecting this data using paper form, and this is not really effective because over the time we are not able to really analyze this data. We don't know how to store it, and so the digital data collection is a starting point for anybody who wants to work with ICT on the ground. I think this is the easier point, and also maybe the more useful. Okay, why did the development sector start to deal with ICT? I'm so sorry because I'm talking especially about development sector because I'm coming from this sector. I collaborated sometimes with some religious entities on the ground, but I'm not really have a big experience in this in this side. So maybe you will help me to be more interesting for you, just asking me some questions. But for the moment, I start talking about what I know better, so the development sector. And I start with the question because it's something really now is quite fashion to add some ICTs in development projects all around the world. And this attention on technology depends especially on the rise of the internet. So we can see in this graph, we have a world average penetration rate of internet in the world is around the 50%. So half of the population is connecting to the internet. The rate is lower in Africa, is lower in Asia, but we have seen that the spread of this technology is growing faster almost everywhere. If you are interested in finding some data about the internet in the world, I suggest you to look for these readings. I will share the link I will share the link to Patrizia, and she will send it via email, of course. And it's really interesting to know is they created the World Bank created it in the 2016, but I think it's good to know a little bit better how it's going the world and the technology, what are the trends, and so it could be really interesting because it's talking about all the world, the different areas. And from these reports, I found this graph that is really interesting because it put the accent of an aspect that is true, that the internet is spreading. Everybody is starting to buy a SIM card and to be connected almost everywhere. But we can see there are many areas in the world where people are not connected. So it's still the majority of the world's population. And this is something that we have to consider where we are going to implement ICT4D projects. And I've wrote this title, Internet Access Need to be Universal, Affordable, Open and Safe, because this, I think, is something we have to work for. We have to work for an open internet, keep it open, so not private, as they try to do many times, and I think in the US they started already, and universal. So we have to try to spread the possibility to people to access to the information, affordable, because in some region it's really expensive, it's still really expensive, and safe. So we have to try to make this space safe, especially for youth, but not only, for everybody. And so we know that there are many risks also related to the internet. And I had also this graph, I think is the last one, so I won't bore you anymore, on the digital transformation, because it's true that it's growing fast. And it's growing fast even in the developing countries. So these data are about the developing countries. And as you can see, this is the line about the mobile phone. So they really are really spread faster than other services like electricity, and improved water is almost the same when you find the improved water and you find also a mobile phone. But we have the problem with the electricity is that it's less spread than the mobile phone. And then we will see some projects that have tried to work on this issue. And as I said, the wider development sector and also the international community start looking at the technology because the technology are more available and spread everywhere, almost everywhere. And they are included also in the Agenda 2013 for Sustainable Development. So for the first time, it's not really the first time, because at the beginning of the new millennium, also the UN, all the other agencies start to put more attention on the use of technology. But they recognize really officially in the Agenda for Sustainable Development, they recognize the great potential of information communication technology to accelerate human progress. So in this case, they really link the ICT to the development, the human development. And especially Ban Ki-moon said in 2006, this technology provides smart solutions to address climate change, hunger, poverty, and other global challenges. They are key instruments to providing mobile healthcare and access to education, empowering women, improving efficiencies in industrial and agricultural production, and safeguarding the environment. So link all the sector that could be affected by the use of the ICTs. It's a really used definition. And I think I'm really positive about the use of technology, but I'm also critical about the development, because we always have to keep in mind what kind of developments when we are working on technology and when we are trying to promote the use of always innovative kind of tools and buying always new tools. We have to keep in mind that all the tools then, when they get broken, they become a waste. And we don't really have the feeling of the waste normally in Europe, but in other countries, like in Africa, we can really see the effects of the use of technologies. So these pictures are about Sodom and Gomorrah in Accra city in Ghana, and is the world's largest digital dump. And I don't know if anybody of you had the chance to be there, but it's really impressive. The number of e-waste that are stocked there from US, from Europe. And so it's good to promote innovative use of technology, but we have to consider also the bad side of technology, and to consider it in our project. For example, I'm normally talking to NGO and I say, okay, but have you considered to do something for managing the waste at the end of the process? And what kind of development is also related to the minerals, the components that are part of our devices. So, okay, we are promoting the use of mobile phones because they give the possibility to anybody to access to the information, to connect to the internet, and etc. And it's okay, but these components are coming from, for example, for Congo, and you can see the pictures where there are many mines, and maybe you already know all the problems that are connected to this kind of work and job. So I think we have to be aware of all these aspects, because we are working on ICT for D, and this D is really important, because for people that are working to empower people, but in a social way, this is the main issues, and the D is the most important letter of this acronym. So just to let you know what is my point of view. And maybe there is a question. I cannot see inside. Okay, no, it's only Patrizia that share with you a link. Okay. Okay, if you don't have any question, I can go ahead, and I will let see.
Can we just check, because perhaps, you know, I don't have questions right now. I just was talking with the person who had some problem, but I don't know, perhaps there are some clarifications or comment that people want to.
Yes, sure.
Let's wait just a second, and perhaps it's worth it, Viviana, to say something about Internet of Things and Internet of Everything. I think it's good to explain more, because I wouldn't give for granted that people understand.
Okay. Yeah, the Internet of Things is I say it's something new, but it's not really. It's not so true, because maybe in our houses we've already experienced the Internet of Things. So I don't know if you have alarm system in your apartments. In the new one, you are able to control it from your smartphone, for example. So it's a way of transmit and share information from one device, from one thing to another. And what is interesting for us, not really the alarm system, I think, but more the use of sensors. So, for example, I go to this project of this man from Rwanda that developed this kiosk that I will show you later on, because it's really at the end. But he developed this kiosk that are a solar kiosk that allow people to charge their phone and to access to internet through a Wi-Fi. Why these sensors are important? Because he developed this business that is a sustainable one, that is inclusive, because he's working with, especially with women. It's a really easy job, so also with people with disabilities could work. So it was able to create many jobs for let me say poor people, but for making sustainable also from an economical to the economical side, you have to effort some challenges. For example, people were using the kiosk and then just to decide to leave the kiosk somewhere in the countryside. Maybe something happens to their family and they just leave it there. And if you add some sensors, the sensor could communicate to the manager, in this case, that maybe is really far away in another country, in another city, and say nobody is moving around the kiosk since 10 minutes. And so you can see that's okay, maybe there is no clients to the kiosk, but after 1 hour, if nothing is moving around, maybe the kiosk is alone. And the kiosk is able, thanks to the Internet of Things, to communicate to the GPS coordination. So you can know exactly where the kiosk is, and you can go and look for your kiosk and save it. I don't know if it's a good example of how it works. And this kind of sensor, you can put the sensor everywhere, and especially for the people who are working for the development, normally you are using also to track the people behaviors, and this helps you to create some services that are more effective, because you can really know how many people are, for example, as I said, use some a special bus, for example, and this bus maybe is you have too many people in some hours, you are able to structure the service in a different way. And this could be used in many different situations. Also for security, you can add the sensors in some areas. They can track if something is wrong, and they can directly send some information to a computer. So it's a different way to organize the intervention in a specific sector. So it's used by the private sector, but there are many uses that could be applied also for the non-profit sector.
Thank you, Viviana. And I want just to share a comment from Nick. He says, my garage door and basement sump are all controllable from my phone. So it's a concrete experience. So of course, he lives in the United States. Perhaps it's easier. But, you know, I would like to invite participants to ask their questions on the chat, or just raise the hand and ask, you know, the flow. So Viviana can also hear your experience and not just.
And some practical use of the sensor, for example, are in agriculture, in area where you don't have to waste too much water because you don't have a lot of water. You can add some sensor on the ground, and they can just notice you when you have to add water, so you are not waste the water. There are many different uses. And also, there are sensors that are used also for the weather. And then I will talk about a system of assurance that is used in Kenya. And so people can buy an assurance while they are buying the seeds for the agriculture, for the just for producing the foods. And in some areas where there are some the risk of drying season, this assurance company is using some sensor to verify if it's true that this area were affected by the drying season, or for some specific problem related to the weather. And in this case, they can decide to send some money, give some money back to the person that decide to subscribe this assurance. So it's a way to protect people. And in this case, for the assurance company to have a worker that is going on the ground to verify the problem, and then to decide to give the money back to the farmer. It's really expensive because the money they are deciding to buy this assurance for very poor farmers that are doing for really low income. So this sensor allows to create this specific service that was not really sustainable for the insurance company before. But thanks to the sensor, they can create this specific service also for, let me say, a poor farmer. So I don't know if I was able to explain in English. Sometimes it's really hard to do it.
No, it's very good. Thank you. I don't know if it might be easier for people to participate if you switch it on again, your camera. Okay. Sorry, let's try. I know that the connection is poor also in our office today. So, and okay. I don't see question, but Viviana, I prepared a small poll, a short poll.
Okay.
That I want to send it out, just to asking people, have you ever heard talking about ICT for development? And so you should see it on your screen and you can answer immediately, just putting yes and no. Consider that ICT for development is information and communication technology for development. Thank you. I see people answering. Okay, I will close the poll, and you can see hear the answer.
Okay.
Very interesting, Viviana, for us, you know. So we're very happy that we are having this webinar. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's really hard to talk about the ICT4D because it's a very huge topic, and today I will try to give you some examples, starting from, in this case, the ICT in agriculture, because maybe you are not really involved in this field, but if you are working in different communities, for sure you will find some farmers or many people working in this sector everywhere in the world. So it's interesting to see how the ICT, so this kind of technologies that allows us to share information and also to communicate could help and support the farmers' work. In many, we have many different examples, and in the next slide we start seeing the first one. But there are many applications that allows people to have access to the price information relating to the market, and this why is important. If happens to you the working in a rural area, as I did in, for example, in Burundi, you are working with farmers, you know that these farmers are not really aware about the price of the different crops on the market. On the market in, for example, in Burundi, in the main city is Bujumbura. Bujumbura looks so far away from people of the rural area, because they don't really have the access to the information. There is no internet connection. Only few of them has a mobile phone. Normally is a old style one, so the one that's connected to the internet, not a smartphone, but a normal one. And so it's really important for them to have to know which is normally the price. Otherwise, people from the main city are coming in the rural area just for buying the crops, and they are able to propose to the farmers whatever price. They are going to underpay the crops, and so the people of the rural area has no possibility to discuss and to negotiate the price, because they don't have really information about what is the price. They cannot show something on a smartphone and say, okay, look, this is the normal price. Why are you proposing a price so low? And so it's something that is able to empower people. In this case, the smartphone, there is a service we are going to see that is working on using SMS. So the farmers could, for free, just decide to subscribe this service, and this service will send some information related to the price. For example, if you are producing rice, about the rice, 1 kilo of rice on the local market this month has this price. And so when the people, the transporter and people coming from the city are coming for buying the crops and the rice on the field, you are able to negotiate. You have some information that allows to have a better price for your family and get more money for your family. And so I think this is really important. It's something really small, like an SMS. But if someone in your community has the possibility to have this mobile phone and to access to this service, it makes it easier for everybody, because then the farmer could share the information, and you can find a solution and to find a way to get more money for your family to efforts or the issue that the economical issue that you have, so for school, for everything. And it's also important, there are many, the ICTs are also important because they give the access to the information that are also related to, I wrote it, agronomy tips. So some tips related to how to cultivate something in specific. So maybe there is a new disease that is spreading, and so your crops is affected by this disease, and you don't know how to manage it. And this service could just give you some information, like what you can do if you have to cut, I don't know, your crops, or if there is some way to manage the disease, if everything is gone, or if you can save your crops from these issues. So it's interesting. And also ICT could be used for educational purposes. So the tips could be really specific, or there are services that working, for example, like a call that inform you, give you some tips about the agriculture in general. So, for example, I don't know, if you want to cultivate rice in this area, it's better if this year you are going to the season is starting on January, and then the rain is coming after a month and a half, so you know how to manage it. And the weather forecast, for example, is something really useful for farmers everywhere in the world, and for us are really easy. You just have to switch on the TV or look on the smartphone, and we have access to all the information related to the weather forecast. But in other countries, not so evident. Normally, it's really difficult to have access to this kind of information, and the ICT could help you in different way. So now I will go more in details thanks to the examples, and I just want to finish this slide. I wrote connect with buyers and farmers around to self-produce. This is really interesting because there are other services developed normally for local NGO that allows people to connect with other farmers and to work together. So I don't know, you can say, I have this rice. Maybe your rice is not enough for calling a buyer from the main city to come because the amount is not enough. But you can put together with other farmers that have also the same kind of rice available, and then you can all together call the buyers from the city and share the income. So the access to the information is really important. As you can see, ESOC is one of the service. Is a service that allows people to get information about the price. As you can see in these pictures, you don't need to have a smartphone. It's really easy. You have all the types of in this case of pineapples. This kind of service can provide information in the local language, because normally in the rural area, for example, in Burundi, people are not speaking in French. So it's really interesting because they can have some information available in their local language. Another service is called iShamba. This has been developed in Kenya, and it's really interesting because it's like an integrated platform. So it's a service that allowed farmers to have what is called here a call center. So they have some experts connected, so they can call and make questions about the cultivation and give some tips specifically from them. And they also have some Q&A service via SMS. So farmers with a very simple cell phone could just write an SMS and give back some advisor. And then they can have some agri tips. So there are people that decide to, as in this case, wonder when you should vaccinate your chicken. People that are just send some information that's I think could be interesting for farmers. This service also provides weather forecast, market prices, as we saw before, alert on farmer event. So if there is something that is that some NGO is organizing in this area that could be interesting for farmers, they just send some invitation via SMS. So it's a service that try to connect the farmers to the information, give them the access to the information. If you think about the farmers really as a simple person that is grew up in a rural area, maybe as a literate or only finished the primary school, that is able to read SMS, but is not didn't have other opportunity of being educated. This kind of service is really open to this person, a huge amount of the services and information that could be really useful in this daily job. And this is the example I was talking before. It's called Kilimo Salamo, and it's a very good example of starting from the private sector. So it's a seeds society. So it's a company that is selling seeds for agriculture, and they decide to integrate this kind of assurance, because in Kenya they have some problem with the drier season, but also with too much rain, they can destroy the crops. And so the farmers, if they lose a season, they don't have income from this season, they have more it's easier for them to so they oh, sorry. The poverty is it's a problem for them. If you lose a season and you are a poor farmer, and then the problem, especially for food security in your family, it's really high. So they decide to face this problem, proposing some insurance, but it was too expensive to create insurance product for really low amount of money. So for seeds, like for $5, and because for checking if the crops has really a problem, you have normally to send someone that is going to the field, to the ground, and just to verify if the farmer really has some problem, and so then you can reimburse the farmer. So they decide to use the sensor to track what is going on in different areas Kenya. And so the farmer, when he's going to buy the seeds, normally has a code that he just have to send via SMS, and the system recognize the code and just activate the insurance. Then if something wrong happens, the sensor on the ground are able to record that, okay, in this fields you had too much rain, so the crops could not really grow up, and so the system automatically reimburse you from the amount you spent for your seeds. So you are able to buy other seeds, and you are able to face your nutritional needs for this period. So it's a way to try to face problem with poverty, and to allow those farmers to invest more. Because if you know that you can lose of your crops, normally you are not spent a lot of money. It may be in what you can, I don't know in English. There is some seeds that are better than others that are more expensive. So normally you are not going to spend for this kind of seeds, because if you risk with the rain, for example, to lose everything, it's too risky. So in this case, if you know that you have the possibility to have a little insurance, maybe you are deciding to invest more in the quality of the seeds. And so if something is getting wrong, you will be reimbursed. Otherwise, you will have a better production from your field. So it's a way to empower people and leader farmers. So okay, I don't know if it was really clear, but I put the link of this video where this lady is presenting the projects, and the link of the 2 different pages. I put also the Kenya National Agricultural Insurance Program, because this first example was able to convince the Kenyan Ministry of Agriculture to support the insurance program. So now is something that is supporting from the government, and I think this is really interesting and important, because they really noticed that it was that has a positive impact, and it was supported by the ministry. This is the better solution when the local government recognize the importance of something and is able to support this, give the sustainability to this kind of projects. So it's a good application of the ICT. I put the link of the CTA because if someone of you is interested in agricultural field, in working with farmers, the CTA is a very good site to visit because they promote and they realize everywhere in the world some good projects using the ICT for development. So it's just for you if you want to go deeper. And then we have the ICT for education. And also in education, the ICT could provide a good help. I think at least in 3 ways. The first one is to improve the quality of education. This means, for example, that normally in the rural area you don't have the possibility to update the tools, the books, and the children and the pupils are using for studying. In this case, if you use the ICT, you are able to provide more contents to a lower price. And this is really interesting because you can spread more contents about, also update the contents is easier because you just have to, if you don't have internet, you just go on site and with a computer and you can just share all the information from a main computer to the tablet or to the school computer. And it's also, say ICT can make trainings more available for teachers. This is really interesting. There is a good project from Cambodia that was presented to this grant that I was talking before, that it was working especially on trainings teachers in rural area. So they saw that it was this NGO noticed that it was a really big differences from the level of education in English of the children in the urban schools compared to the ones of the rural areas, and this was related to the level of teachers. Because in the rural area, the teachers could normally don't really have some opportunity of trainings. So they create a system based on Arduino, and I don't really go on details. That is a small, like a small computer that is working also without internet, that it was able to provide new contents to really train the teachers on new methodology of teaching, new content, giving new readings, and so the opportunity to update. And also to have some quiz and some tests to check the level that they are achieving. And this was really interesting because also the teacher really didn't have the feel to be alone, but to be part of the educational system of the country. And then I will give you the link also to this project. And also ICT allow learning to become student-centered rather than teacher-dominated. And this is also one of the issues in some countries. The teacher is really the protagonist. And sometimes it is the student really didn't have an alternative to the teacher. So if the teacher is not so good, they are forced to study with him. And normally they have one teacher or at least 2 teachers in the rural area. And so the fact of balance the normal school with some trainings provided, for example, on a smartphone or a normal cell phone or a tablet, allows the children, the students, to have access to information also in a different way. separated from the traditional education system. I saw that there is a question. No? Okay. Okay. I'll give you some example. This is really easy. This example came from, yes?
I'm sorry to disturb you. I have some problem with my macro.
Okay.
This is the question that I want to read. Actually, I would like to give the floor to Sister Lori Ines, because she raised her hands. Sister Lori, you have the floor. Sister Lori, if you want, you can ask your question.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Okay. My question is, what do the sensors look like? And where are they installed? And what is the area they cover? For example, when we use them in agriculture, for example.
Okay, normally the sensor, I don't have a picture, I'm sorry, are really small. And normally if you want to cover a very huge area, you need many of them. They are not really, I can say, expensive. So normally you can use more. If you, the sensor normally is like, I don't know, as 2 or 3 centimeters. It depends of the sensor, but they're really, really small one. So if you have to cover different, and there are very many different kind of sensors. There are sensors that you can put in the ground, sensor that maybe you can just normally are also used in urban area, for example, for measure the level of pollution. So they are put in there, for example, close to a house or in the middle of the or to red light in the traffic. You can find that there are really small ones.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sister Lori. I would just stop 1 minute, Viviana, because it's hard for me. I can imagine that it's also hard for the sisters to follow you. I mean, not because of the language, but because, you know, the content is, you know, it's not very easy perhaps for us. So I would like just to stop 1 minute and see if we have some questions.
Yes,
okay,
of course.
Sister Angela, you have the floor. Sister Angela.
Yeah. Is the sensor like something like a tracker?
A tracker?
Yeah. Is it how the sensor looks like?
It's I don't know. It's okay. I can look for a picture.
Angela, can you introduce yourself shortly, please? Sister Angela.
Yes, please.
Can you introduce yourself shortly, your name, congregation, and country?
I am Sister Angela Ngozi. I am a sister of the Society of the Holy Child Jesus in African province. So I'm in Nigeria. I'm talking from Nigeria, a particular place in Lagos, Apapa.
Thank you very much, sister.
Thank you.
Okay, there are very different kind of sensor. If you have some motion sensor, are normally like this one. This one, I don't know if you can see it. So they have something that is related to light. They are motion sensors, so they are able to recognize if something is passed by. And then if you are about the sensor in the ground, sometimes are like this one, or even a smaller one like this one. I saw many times. So they have something that is going in the ground that is able to, for example, recognize the level of humidity, and then is connecting to like a small hardware that is able to share the information. It's like a chip.
Okay.
And
thank you.
Okay. And
Thank
also
you.
Marides sent me another link. There are many different kind of sensor. Normally we are not if you are like for me and you, normally we are not in charge of choose the sensor or develop the sensor or create the sensor. Normally our role, and then I will go deeper and I hope to have time, is to recognize what are the needs and be able to communicate with people that are really technicians and professionals, or like the software developers or people that are working on the hardware, to let them understand what are our needs. Because the problem is in the ICTs is normally we miss the link between the people that are on the ground, that are not aware about all the possibility offered by the technology, and the people that are working in technology, that normally are too much, I don't know, I can say professional, too much nerd, and too far from the people of the communities. So our responsibility, I think, is to know what is going on in the world, what are the possibilities offered by the technology a little bit, and to be able to understand the needs on the ground, and then to connect. And then we are not in charge really to choose which sensor is the best one, but it's important to know that it is the sensor, what sensor are. So something that can recognize and can collect many different data from the ground, from the air, from everything, from the motion, and can send this information automatically to a computer, for example, can collect some data for us. So if we know that our farmers need, I don't know, to have information about the pollution of the ground, we can verify the pollution with the sensor. If we need other kind of information, we know that this kind of sensor exists, and so we are able to contact someone that is expert and to develop a solution, or something that maybe is already used in other part of the world, we can adapt and use in our context. So this is our mission, I think, as a worker in development or in social sector. It's important to know what is going on in the technology, and then we can decide if we need something or maybe we don't need it, and it's okay. But it's good to know what are the possibilities.
Thank you, Viviana, for this clarification. I think this is very important because I can see the faces of the sisters and brothers listening to you and feel, I feel frustrated because we don't know these kind of things. But your clarification is very important because we don't have to do, as religious sisters, we don't have to do everything. We have just to listen to people, trying to understand the needs. And from there, we can find the application, the software more suitable to answer to these questions and needs. And in this case, for the technical side of the ICT, we need help. And it's not so costly, actually, perhaps. So there are also NGOs who fund for this kind of project. So we have to look for the right solution. There's another question, Viviana.
Mm-hmm.
I would like Philippe to ask his question by himself, if he likes. Philippe, welcome.
Hello, Viviana. I am Philippe. I am a missionary of Africa, and I am currently working in Rome. I do have some experience in the field of ICT for education,
mm-hmm.
working with computers for classes in poor areas, in townships in Tanzania and in South Africa. And we have met two types, at least, of really big problems. The first one is refers to the expertise that you need to set up computers, for example, in networking, because if you really want to share content, for example, you need to have a network that is working. It's difficult to find technicians on the spot. You might be, I might be a technician for some time, but I will not last forever. So it's one of the problems. Another problem that is even more important is the security problem. We've been robbed of all our computers several times until we spent 3-4 times the price of the computers just for reinforcing security upon security. You see, so it is a very exciting domain, and I like it very much, but it is really difficult to put into place.
This is true. I really totally agree. And I will come to a list of problems and issues and challenges of using ICT4D. It's true, there are many, and you need a lot of the trainings. You need training people to have the skills for using the computers, of course. And normally, especially in the past, I decided not to tell you really the story of ICT4D in the development sector, but in the first stage, they decided, especially the NGO, were really enthusiastic about this opportunity. And normally they provide just computers to everybody or tablets to everybody. And then they saw, and then they really discovered that it was not enough, because the people were not able to use it. They get broken, and nobody was able to repair, or they haven't talked about a budget for repairing the computer. And also the security aspect was really important, especially in ICT for education. We know, and this I think especially the South America has experience of how it's risky to introduce computer and use social media in school. In schools, so normally they have some problem also, a really big problem like harassment or violence on the web and etc. So I know there are many issues, and this is I really absolutely agree. And so the idea of today, when I say I would like to show you many opportunity, but also many the risk and the bad side of using technologies, because the idea is that the social workers or people working for human development has to be aware of this, because they have to be also able to be critical and say, okay, in this case the technology could be useful, in that case no, these are the risks, and we are going to see also the risk. And so it's true, normally we are really enthusiastic about technology, but it's not always necessary. Sometimes the budget could be used better for other activities, for example, and sometimes it's even bad, and sometimes it works. So it's the idea is to be able to recognize that there are this opportunity, and to be able to analyze when it's good to use this technology and when it's not. For example, this is part of the job that I'm doing for NGO 2.0. Normally, we are doing consultancy to NGO just for analyzing the context, and we know maybe more than the NGO. We know more about the technology, and so we are able to analyze when is good to use it and when it's not necessary, for example. So sometimes the kind of consultancy they ask to us is related to this topic.
Yeah, Viviane, I do have another 2 examples. I've been working with street children, for example, using the programs of BBC World. They had programs to learn English, for example, or to learn business. And I found that very valuable. I was in Tanzania at that time, and you know, we all come from Europe or from abroad with broken English, with English not being our first language. And to teach English to kids who do not know English, that's not always the best. And through radio programs, I have found a very good support to teach proper English to the children whom I was working with. That's one example. Another example it is somebody who shared with me that he had created a small app for use in the townships in Africa, where in South Africa, where you probably know there is big problems of security, whereby people could, through their cell phone, have a panic button that would call not a company, but all the neighbors who are connected to that same app to come and help dealing with the security issue. And I found that was really a very good initiative that was not costly at all and available for most of the people, at least in South Africa, where they have maybe more than in any other countries, those technological telephone, those mascots.
The best solution are the solution that are really coming from the ground. So people normally are able now to develop solution for their country directly. And the two examples you gave are very good one. I think the first tool you are using for English, it works good, especially in Tanzania, where maybe also the connection and the devices where the quality of the devices was quite high. So it was able to support also this kind of tool. Maybe in other contexts it would work as well. And I think the one of the South Africa is a very good example. It's something really simple that is easy to use. Everybody could understand also the positive aspects. And so, yeah, of course, it's a very good one. Thank you for sharing your experience.
Thank you, Viviana.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, otherwise I go on with this example, come from the Sierra Leone.
Viviana,
Yes?
just a second, sorry, I keep having problem with my with my microphone, so now I want to thank Felipe, and I want to ask Felipe just to say where does she come from, because it was not clear to me.
Okay, I am a white father, commonly called white father, missionary of Africa. We are specialized for Africa and today Africans in the world. And I've been in Rwanda, in Tanzania, and in South Africa. I was born in Belgium, and I am now working at our Generalate in Rome.
Okay, thank you, Philippe. Viviana, we have just a few minutes, so I would like to give the floor to another sister who has raised the hands, and Sister Angela again. She's asking from Nigeria.
Yeah, Viviana, my problem is, as I was listening to your input, the light went off. So I missed some part. I had to go and put on the inverter and then transfer the Swift in a place where I could follow up. There is a problem like here in Nigeria or most African countries that online kind of communication is very good, is very enriching, is very educative, but the setback is that as you showed the graph, you say water and telephone, there is a way is improving, but the light system is really a problem here. If we didn't have inverter, I wouldn't have followed up. So it's like half and half. In that case, how will one follow this program in case if one is in the place there is epileptic light? So how do we cope with this? I work with the sick people, and sometimes you are doing some important things. Before you realize it, the light has gone. You put on the generator. It is really affecting us more. How do one follow you if there is no light?
Yeah.
Just a second, Viviana. Thank you, Sister Angela. I think that we cannot solve everything today. It's just to open a window about the possibility you know, we usually know the ICT, the social media, the web, the digital world just for Facebook or Twitter. This webinar, the goal of this webinar is to show that it's also for something else. You know, it's also for our mission, for the development of the country where we work with. But I mean, it's just opening a window, so we cannot answer everything. And, you know, we have just a few minutes, Viviana. So let's just wait 1 minute more and see if we have other contributions, other questions or comments from people.
If I can just add something, normally the ICT in the project are working especially with solar power. So normally it's not a ICT, but normally we try to integrate the two things, because electricity, we know, it's one of the big issue in Africa, not only in Africa. So and unfortunately, all the ICT they need the electricity for working. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's, I mean, I don't know, you know, I don't see other questions. Perhaps, you know, I don't want people to feel, you know, frustrated. Or, you know, we want just to encourage, to open new ways, new paths. I would like to invite my colleague Nick and Marides to appear again with the audio and video. So if they want to just add one comment, we can go towards the conclusion of our webinar. I'm sorry, Viviana, perhaps you had
no problem.
Something more, but I think it's really enough.
Sorry.
Marides, do you have a comment?
It's a very interesting presentation, Viviana. And it's very timely because next month I will be going to Africa, particularly in Mozambique, because we have an African assembly. So
Okay.
this presentation is really very helpful. Thank you very much.
If I can just add something to the presentation, you will find many other examples. Yeah, we are not, even me, I'm not able to develop anything at all. I have a degree in intercultural communication. I'm not a developer or an engineer, of course. The idea is to open the mind and to be aware of what is going on in the community we are working. The world is really changing faster. in maybe in our countries there are also young people that are working together and try to develop solution for facing local needs. This is the best starting point. So try to look what is going on, also with startups and digital lab and other realities, and try to talk with these people, because maybe we have some needs. We are not able to communicate with 3 communities that are really far away, and we can talk together and find a solution together. So they can add their experience in the use of technology, and you can add your experience in knowing the context, in knowing the social issues, in knowing how the people will react to a technology. And you will be maybe the person in charge of adapting the technology, in working with people, with the trainings, education, and also the ICT open to many different methodology. So maybe you are able to use maybe the human-centered design. So you are going and discuss with people and try to fix a solution together. And then you put this experience, go to the technicians, and you try to work with them. So this work as a link, as a bridge from one world to another, that it really looks so far away. This is maybe your mission. It's really, for me, this is the good point, and this is what I'm normally do, even if I don't have this really high competencies and skills, technologically speaking. So yeah, I think you have all the skills you need. It's just a matter of know what is going on, and maybe in the slide you will find other examples. And I'd invite you, just the last things, to just to go to the page of the ICT for Social Good grant. that I was working on last year, and we were able to collect 233 projects from 57 countries in the world. We have 80 videos of 30 seconds of people that are presenting their projects. So maybe you can find something in your country. And so maybe you can just contact this person and talk with this person and find a solution. So be open and to collaborate with many, many people, and also to engineers that are able to help us in many different ways. Okay.
Thank you very much, Viviana. I know that we would need another webinar on that, and perhaps in the future. You know, this was just the first step to open, as you said, you know, the window. And I will send the links that you have mentioned to the participants, you know, so do not worry if you couldn't take note. Nick?
I would just thank Viviana, and for all of you. This really is the marriage between communication and ministry, the field operations and the logistics support and the storytelling and the sharing. And it's all about relationships, which as communicators is critical, and as Catholic sisters and as congregations, that's critical for mission. So thank you very much for giving voice to that core part of who we are and what we do. So thank you, Viviana.
So thank you. Also the sisters that I hosted here, they thank you. They are here, you know, just, I don't know how to
I greet them anyway.
They are two Indian sisters. So thank you. We listen to you. I just want to share with the participants some future events. We are launching together with MMI and CWR the first handbook for communication for religious sisters. So a very specific communication handbook, and will be launched during a during a seminar March the 9th. And I also have a brand new that this morning, Nick and Marides, we decided to also have a webinar for the seminar. I'm sorry for the United States because it will be in the morning, so perhaps it doesn't fit for your people, but you know, it will be useful for Africa, Asia, and Europe. So we will have a webinar for the seminar. So where Bishop Paul Teig and Sister Bernadette Rice, they will share their experience as an expert for the digital challenge of the church. And following the seminar, we will have the 4th edition of the basic course on communication for religious sisters and brothers, and it will be in English, in French, and in Italian. In the future, we will have the same edition online. So this is the 4th edition on site, so in Rome, just for people in Rome. But we will use the manual, the handbook, for the content of the seminar and course, so it will be very important. The handbook, the first handbook edition will be in Italian and will be online the following day of the launching. And soon the second one will be in English. So I think it's everything. Yes, we hear but I will send you this link. This is the multilingual platform for material on communicating the mission, and the multilingual Facebook group to keep, you know, nurturing this network among communicators for religious life. So again, thank you very much, Viviana.
Thank you to you.
Thank you, Viviana.
It's very clear that you're passionate for this.
Yeah, too many things to say. Sorry, so it's true that it's really difficult to find the keywords and the key contents to share, because you have in mind too many examples and too many things to say. So I'm sorry if I was a little bit confused. I hope you get the message anyway. And yeah, why not? I hope to see you soon.
You were not confused at all, actually, perhaps for most of us, but I don't know, perhaps it's just my problem. You know, it's a brand new theme, you know, so thank you very much. Thank you to all the participants coming from different parts of the world. This is the first goal of the webinar, is to let people meet from all over the world, not only people, but religious people. So Thank you again. Thank you, and see you for the following webinars. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.